Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonas Fischer from the Tohoku Forum for Creativity, and I want to talk about what we are, what we do, and the kind of events we've been hosting, especially the hybrid outreach events that we've been hosting this past year. So, first of all, what is the Tohoku Forum for Creativity? We are a part of Tohoku University, and we are an international visitor research center that has been established about 8 years ago. With the aim to facilitate collaborative research. That means we want to attract international collaborations. We want to invite international researchers to come to Sendai, to Tohoku University, and participate in some events, but also start long-term collaborations, which is, of course, the main goal. So who are we? You can see in this picture our director, our vice director, and the program coordinators, one of which is me. And we also have an international advisory board that helps with all the important decisions, as well as, of course, a large amount of office and public relations staff. Too many to show here, but of course, equally as important. So we are part of Tohoku University. As I said, there's many different programs at Tohoku University, and our main thing is to work together with international institutions, to work together to attract researchers to come here, join in our events that we are doing, and then ideally work together with researchers from Tohoku University and especially young researchers from Tohoku University, so that these young researchers can one day become world-class scientists themselves. So the main thing we do is organize these so-called thematic programs. That usually means there's a period of 3 months where international researchers, hopefully world-class researchers among them, come to Tohoku University. There's multiple academic events. Usually it would be one big conference or symposium that lasts, for example, a week, while at the same time there's research going on and many discussions and smaller events, and usually also a public lecture. The organizers can be from everywhere, but always have to include at least one researcher or one professor from Tohoku University. They, in turn, organize the whole program and get support from us, the Tohoku Forum for Creativity, in regards to, for example, organizing the venue, organizing public relations, and so forth. And of course, there's also a large amount of money that they can also use, for example, to pay honorarium to researchers that come to speak. And we have offices for these researchers so that they can stay here. With the aims are always to find some important problem that society has, to identify these important problems, develop new research fields, new research ideas, and also always what we like to have is some collaboration with young researchers so that we can raise the next generation of global leaders. As I said, we like to attract world-class researchers, and we have done so in the past. You can see here all the Nobel laureates, field medalists, winners, and other famous people that have been coming to Tohoku University to give a talk. There's literally been dozens of Nobel laureates, and most of these lectures you can still see on YouTube, of course, for free. I also want to show again our kind of mission statement of the Tohoku Forum for Creativity. So as I said, we aim to help these organizers of the program to identify important problems across any kind of science or humanity discipline. We want to bring together junior and senior researchers in a stimulating environment. And what's always the case is that there's some interdisciplinary research. So it's not just one topic, there's people from different topics coming together, people from different countries. And that way we hope to find some new ideas and especially start new collaborations. And also part of our goals is to contribute to society by sharing academic advances. And this is what I will mainly speak about later, because these are the outreach events that have been, of course, mostly online and in a hybrid format this last year. So we also have the so-called Tokyo ELECTRON House of Creativity, which is kind of our main building. That is a very good location to host these events, to host conferences, and to host international researchers, because we have a nice lobby for discussions, for example. We have offices for the researchers, and we have a large lecture room for up to 100 people. And this is right in the middle of Sendai on Katahira campus, which is less than 10 minutes by walking from Sendai station, which many people don't know is just 1.5 hours by Shinkansen from Tokyo. So unfortunately, this is how this past year basically has looked all the time, because it's been empty, because we cannot do many events. I want to show you a little bit of statistics. So until 2014, or especially since 2015, there have usually been pretty much exactly on average 18 big conferences, symposia, or workshop every year. And of course, in 2020, there have been 0. There have only been online events and usually smaller seminars and workshops. Of course, the number of invited researchers also pretty much dropped to 0. I want to show you what these programs would usually look like. So usually, as I said, it would be one large conferences over 3 months. But in 2020, just to give one example, this environmental and financial risk and market-oriented societies, this was planned for 2020, has been mainly shifted to this fiscal year, so to 2021. And as you can see, it's many events. You cannot see it here, but these events are usually smaller and online. So they would look probably like this. It's a Zoom call with any number of participants, of course, but definitely it's not the same as having a conference. In 2020, of course, there was some kind of transition in the beginning, but one of the first larger events we had that was very much on topic is this special lecture in Japanese, in this case, called The Peek into the Mystery of Acquired Immunity. So, of course, there's some connection to Corona and vaccines in this case. So it was very much on topic that this was one of the first events in 2020, and it was also a quite large event with an audience of almost 500 participants. And in this case, fully online. We also had the program called Dawn of Gravitational Waves, which was initially planned to have to run from September to October, so for 1 month with a conference, but instead it turned out to be mainly online, and it's still running this year, so much longer and again, kind of smaller events. But in this case, it was a quite nice event with 2 Nobel laureates speaking, and many people participating, and it was very open so that everyone could just ask directly to the Nobel laureates whatever they wanted to know, including, for example, this high school student who I think was probably just 16 years old, had a little bit of difficulty with English, but had an interesting question to ask. So now finally to some hybrid events. So this is a kind of citizen cafe format where scientists and quote unquote normal people come together to discuss and talk together. And in this case, it was like an actual hybrid event, so that half the people joined in real life, in this case, just maybe 15 or 20, I think, and half the people joined online. And of course, we had to implement Corona safety measures with masks and measuring the temperature of every participant. And this was happening in our Tokyo ELECTRON House of Creativity in December last year. So probably at that time in Tokyo, it was a little bit tough, but in Miyagi Prefecture, there were very few cases of Corona. So we could have at least these kind of small events in real life. I want to show you some more pictures of events. So this is an event of on the topic of marine science on the ocean collapse and regeneration that was held together with OIST in Okinawa. And here again, we had some participants in real life and some participants joining online. So of course, in the meantime, throughout 2020, we also got some new gear. We have many cameras. We have these kind of big screens that have the camera included, where we can have people join via Zoom and other people join in real life. And it's more or less smooth, but it requires a lot of gear, which I will also show in the next step. So we had this event on the DX, so on the digital transformation, that was held held on a venue in Sendai. And in this case, so we rented this room and we had the moderator and 2 of the speakers come to the actual venue, while 2 other of the speakers and participants of the panel discussion joined online. And that you can see here a little bit how that looked like. So we had 2 cameras filming the speakers, shifting back and forth, whoever was speaking. The 2 monitors here and a large monitor here, so the speakers can see their counterparts on the screen, and in that way discuss with each other. While the moderator also took questions from the about 300 online participants. And how that actually looked like then in terms of all the gear we had to bring. As you can see, there were, I think, 6 computers, 3 large screens, 2 cameras, and maybe like 5, 6, or 7 people working just in the background, while the moderator, the 2 speakers on site, and the 2 speakers online were discussing about the digital transformation and the post-coronavirus society. So I want to come back to our mission statement before we go into the next part. As I mentioned, it's part of our aims to raise global leaders and to contribute to society by sharing academic advances. And especially this last part is, of course, what it's about today, science communication. And the biggest event we have in that vein is, I would say, the Falling Walls Lab Sendai. If you haven't heard about the Falling Walls Lab before, it's a kind of 3-minute thesis competition. So for students, researchers, and early career professionals, it is this like competition to speak, to introduce your research, and it's framed in the way of breaking the wall of something, because this is organized by the German Falling Walls Foundation, and the finals is held in Berlin. So the topic is, how do you break walls of research? Of course, referencing the fall of the Berlin Wall about 30 years ago. And as you can see here, this is from the homepage of the Falling Walls Foundation. Tohoku University is named as one of the international labs that are held in over 60 countries, because Tohoku University was actually one of the first outside of Germany, outside of Europe, that was holding this event already since 2014. And the finals is always in Berlin, usually, of course, except last year when it was fully online. So the winner of all these local labs all over the world go to Berlin and have a very big discussion, usually with 100 participants from all over the world. So as I said, this Falling Walls Lab Sendai at Tohoku University was the first Falling Walls Lab, or one of the first outside of Europe, the first in Asia and the first in Japan. And we have been holding it every year since 2014. I want to show a little bit of impression. So this is from the first year, 2014. In 2015, I guess it looked quite similar. As you can see, we have the participants, we have a jury that decides who wins. And usually it's quite lively, as the participants are passionate about their research and want to introduce it in the 3 minutes, convince the jury, and hopefully convince the audience. And usually there was also a networking event after the thesis competition. In 2016, very similar. You can see here the trophy, the jury deliberating, and the obligatory group picture after the event. Again, here you see 2017, 2018, 2019, and the big change, 2020, it was, of course, held online. You can see here the jury and all the participants joining via Zoom, while the audience participated via YouTube Live. You can also see here our Tokyo House of ELECTRON again, Tokyo ELECTRON House of Creativity, sorry, where the event was held, but in this case, only the moderators, so our organizers from the Tohoku Forum for Creativity were there, while the speakers, those living close to Sendai, had the opportunity to come about 10 days before and record their 3-minute pitch on the stage at the Tokyo House of ELECTRON, while other participants who joined online recorded their video at home or at their institutions. And then all the videos were played, and after the, in this case, 2.5 minutes pitch, there was a 30-second window where the jury could ask very quick questions to the participants so that it's not only watching the videos. And the audience could also have asked questions, but of course in 30 seconds it's quite difficult to manage this. So this was the event last year. And this year, we hope that we can do it in a hybrid format. We hope that we can have all the people of Tohoku University and maybe from even a little bit further away come again to Sendai, to our campus. We will book a much larger venue for up to 500 people so that we can have some nice social distance, and we will also allow online participation. So again, we will need this kind of setup that I showed you before with many computers, with a big screen showing the parts of the jury that are not in Sendai, that join from their home or wherever they are working. And at the same time have people in real life and everyone talking to each other without any microphone feedback loops and so on. As I mentioned before, the winner of this event will go to Berlin to the Falling Walls Lab Finals, which is usually held alongside the Berlin Science Week. So in 2020, both events were held online. At that time, I actually joined the Falling Walls Lab Sendai. I got second place, so I also participated in the Falling Walls remote online finals. And alongside at the Berlin Science Week, the Tohoku Forum for Creativity and Tohoku University also organized an event, in this case on the topic of building resilient societies, which was a panel discussion together with the Free University of Berlin. So in 2021, the Berlin Science Week is once again planned to take place on-site in Berlin. This time, we hope to actually travel there to take the winner of Falling Walls Lab Sendai and maybe 2 researchers to organize an event really in Berlin. And all the events are now planned to simultaneously be broadcasted online. So this is probably kind of the biggest lesson of last year, that if you do things online, you can reach a larger audience potentially, but definitely a different audience. So the idea is to how the events on site attract the people who want to come, have hopefully a more lively discussion than what it usually is online, but also broadcast online so that everyone who doesn't have the opportunity to come can join. So that's what the Berlin Science Week is planning. And also we are planning for the Falling Walls Lab Sendai and many of our other events. So to kind of have both the advantages of online and of on-site events. Lastly, I want to show you a little bit more about the programs we are running this year. So we have 4 of these so-called thematic programs. You can, of course, see all of them on our homepage. We have a program on environmental and financial risk and market-oriented societies. We have this program about the Tohoku triple disaster that happened 10 years ago this year. And we have a program on quantum computing that's also running right now. If you're interested, you can watch all of it on YouTube, but in this case, it's in Japanese. And we have a program on constructing a healthy society through integrated biobank applications. So if you're interested in any of this, of course, please check our homepage, ask me anything you want. And if you're interested, for example, in the Falling Walls Lab Sendai or how some particulars of the events that we did and how we are hosting them, of course, feel free to ask me today or anytime later via email or whatever you wish. So thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions now or later.